Welcome to Where's Wilmington? I'm Lisa Capala, and I have some exciting news to share with you today. If you have not seen this man to my right, you must be living in the dark somewhere, because he has been from everything to car washes to chili cook-offs, letting people know that he is doing something really great for Wilmington, and that's why we have David Fionda,
hi Lisa,
Dave to his friends, here to tell us about his, what would you call it, campaign, I guess you'd say, for the 21st Middlesex District State Representative seat. Tell us a little bit about why your campaign is particularly unusual and exciting.
Well, that's a great question, Lisa. What happened, typically in the typical traditional campaign, people, there's an incumbent, people make a decision whether or not they want to run. They file nomination papers as of May 1st. The nomination papers are certified as of June 1st. Then the ballot goes to the printer at the Secretary of State, especially in a statewide race, and then you run your race and then you have your primary. In this case, it's very peculiar because a couple things happen. First of all, on the Democratic side, the incumbent Charlie Murphy decided on June 25th that he was going to retire.
Which is after May 1st.
Which is after June 1st.
But June 1st is
so
the date.
The first challenge is Charlie Murphy's name is on the ballot, and he's on the ballot unopposed. So he's the only name on the ballot. Now there's another challenger that wanted to run as an independent in the final election, but unfortunately he filed the wrong nomination papers. He filed Republican nomination papers instead of independent nomination papers. So he's also running a write-in campaign.
Wow.
So we have both the Democratic side and the Republican side both running write-in campaigns.
Excellent.
So that's the challenging peculiarities of this race.
Right. So tell me about the write-in campaign and what that causes you to have to do in order to get people to know that you exist.
It's a great question. It's funny because I don't know if you remember a few years ago in Missouri where there was a gentleman, a senator that was on the ballot, and the senator passed away and he still won.
Right, right.
So the challenge that you have here is that in a state where, especially in this primary in Wilmington and in Burlington, there is no opposition, there is no ballot, there is no competition for most of the races, the big ones. So someone's going to come in, see the same person who's been on the ballot for the past 9 years, unopposed, and they're going to just fill in the block. So conceivably, Representative Murphy could win the election. Even
though he's not really interested in the position.
He's not.
Wow. And I imagine some folks might just think it would be nice to check him off, since even if he isn't running, it's sort of a nice thing to do. Right. There's the view of, he was in for so long, it'd be cute to check him off. Well, how can you make sure that people know to put your name in there?
Well, it's doing things like this. I think that, there is, the thing that I think that people need to understand is the next step in the process. So let's say, for example, that Charlie gets the most votes. If he gets the most votes, he's not going to accept the nomination. So he writes a letter to the Secretary of State. He says, I will not serve. I can't serve, I will not serve. And then what happens is that it goes back to the Democratic Town Committee of the 3 towns by rule. So they will elect members. There's 8 members from Burlington, 6 from Bedford, because Wilmington only has 1 precinct, 1 from Wilmington. And they will caucus, and they will choose who will be on the November ballot.
So that's a larger process than what we're talking about. So it would make more sense if folks were to choose you, that they would write you in, because it's going to be a lot of red tape to get it all done if that happens.
Oh, exactly, yeah. And so what we're doing is we're running a traditional campaign. We're doing visibility. I'm going to events. I'm having discussions with voters. I'm appearing on this show.
Right.
Doing all the traditional, you're getting out lawn signs, making phone calls.
Right.
You're doing all the things that you have to do in a campaign to get your word out there. And the other challenge of this particular campaign is it's 10 weeks and it's compressed into the summertime.
Right.
Right, July and August is the times for this campaign. The other peculiarity about this election that people need to know about is the primary is not on a Tuesday. The primary is on a Thursday. It's Thursday, September 6th. Typically, and the primary is moved up, I think, a week and a half.
Wow.
Typically, the primary is around the 14th or 15th of September, but there was, I think it was a Jewish holiday that conflicted with that day on Tuesday, so they wanted to move it up, but they didn't want to have it the day after Labor Day, so they moved it to Thursday.
Wow. Well, that's quite a few challenges before you even get your foot in the door.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
So I could say to you, playing devil's advocate, that maybe it's good that Charlie isn't running and that you almost are running unopposed, except for the independent candidate. Would there be an upside to having you be a write-in candidate, meaning that your mother and two sisters could come in and write your name in and you could win?
Well,
why are you bothering to make all this extra effort?
Well, there's two parts to that. By rule, I have to get at least 150 votes. So when the gentleman's on the Republican ballot, he has to get 150 write-in votes to be certified to be on the ballot. My challenge is even greater because not only do I have to get at least 150, I have to beat Charlie.
Right.
And what complicates it even more, if his race isn't complicated enough,
right,
what makes it complicated more is in the third town, Bedford, Susan Fargo has retired. There was a 5-way race for her seat. So every one of those candidates is going to pull their voter base out, and they're going to identify voters and bring voters out that may not have voted before. They're not as in tune. In most typical towns, we can identify the voters that vote all the time. So there are people that no matter what happens, sun, moon, rain, stars, they're going to get out and vote. In a race like that, we have 5 people. You have 5 organizations identifying voters and getting their vote out. There's going to be a lot of voters that get out and vote, and they may not know that Charlie has retired. So instead of again, I don't know the exact numbers, but if let's say in an uncontested race, Bedford has 1,500 people come to the polls, right? In a contested race that someone gets people out for, they may have 3,000 people. So that's what makes it even more challenging. So it's all those different factors that make this.
But knowing a little bit about you as I do, you're a guy who really likes challenges.
Yeah, I mean that's.
So maybe this is universally the way it needs to be for you, because you're a problem solver.
Well, yeah.
When you were a kid, you were a locksmith with your dad. That's correct, right? So you've been unlocking difficult puzzles all your life. Tell us a little bit about some of your background, so we can get to know you a little bit personally.
Sure. Typical Italian-American immigrant family. My family emigrated here. The first parts of my family emigrated here in the early 1900s. My great uncle emigrated here in 1911. He was 13 years old. And he wanted to come to America so bad because it was a land of opportunity, and his mother wouldn't let him. And he convinced his mother to let him go with his uncle. He and his uncle came over. He was 13 years old in 1911. And the uncle said after a year he couldn't find work. So he wanted to go back, and my uncle said, no, I'm staying here. My mother borrowed the money, and I'm going to make something of myself. And he put himself through school. He got a job in a bank. He opened up a travel agency. He bought real estate. He did very, very well. So in 1954, he sent for his brother, which was my grandfather. And they actually settled right over here in Wilmington.
Nice.
Off of Shawshene Avenue. The house isn't there anymore, but they were all, my uncle and my other uncle and my grandfather and their entire family were all here. My grandfather joined the Bricklayers Union, got a job immediately, started working construction. So I grew up in an immigrant family, and then my dad also, his parents, they actually owned a fruit stand, a farm stand right on Route 38 in the Wilmington line.
Oh, wow.
So people who were in their 60s and 70s will remember that. This is back in the 70s.
What was the name of it?
Oh, it's just, I forget what the name of the store was, but they initially had a market, and people from all over would shop there. It was right in North Woburn, right in the Wilmington line. And then they had a fruit stand, fruits and vegetables, nursery, that kind of thing. So, but you learn some really important values. And the value that I always learned was, to work hard. I think everyone in my family had to work hard to make something of themselves because they came here literally with nothing. But also to help others. My mother told a story about how my grandmother during the Depression, when things were really rough, people would come in and she'd say, no, you don't have to worry about it. You can pay me back later, because she didn't want them to go hungry.
Right.
So that was really ingrained on me, the importance of service and the importance of hard work. I mean, professionally, I worked 3 jobs, put myself through Bentley, got out of Bentley, became a CPA, started my first business, which was a small accounting practice, sold that business, started the next business, sold that one, and started the next one and sold that one. And shortly after I sold that one, I had a daughter, decided to kind of change gears and stay home and be a single parent.
Excellent.
So my daughter's mom was working full time, and I was one who stayed home, and it 2:30, I got off the bus with her and drove her to dance class. And
so you and Scott Brown have something in common,
drove her to ballet.
right?
Yeah, drove her to ballet.
I keep talking about that on TV with him
really?
too.
Yeah, drove her to ballet, do those kinds of things. That was really rewarding. But now she's off at college. She's going into her sophomore year. And so now it's time for me to do something different. And I was very heavily involved in Rotary for a long time and was what they call a district governor. I was in charge of 47 Rotary clubs in Eastern Massachusetts. So I coordinated a lot of the humanitarian efforts and community service efforts of these clubs. So service was really drilled into me. When Charlie retired, which I think everybody was shocked that he retired. It was, he'd been in for so long, and I just saw it as a way of extending what I did in Rotary and helping others.
Okay, but the other side of that is this is much bigger than Rotary. Rotary's big and it's a wonderful organization, but this is really big compared to that. Do you think maybe you've gotten in a little over your head?
Oh, no, absolutely not.
Really?
I don't. I think when you're an entrepreneur, you go into a new challenge, the first thing you do is you listen and learn. And I've been going out throughout the district just talking with folks and asking them, well, what are the issues, what are the problems, what are the concerns? And you learn and you figure things out, and I think that, anything, you can apply that to anything.
True.
When I was a district governor, there's 500 district governors in the world, and there's 1.2 million Rotarians. And I just listened and learned a lot, and I would do the same thing coming in here. I've got some friends who are state representatives, people I've done the Pan Mass Challenge 9 times, which is a cycling race that raised, I think so far, $338 million to the Jimmy Fund. I did that for 9 years. So I know some folks through that affiliation. So, I'm going to listen to them, and I'm going to talk to them, and I'm going to figure out, I'm going to keep my head down, I'm going to listen, I'm going to learn, and really understand how it all works.
So from what you found out from your constituents, or your soon-to-be constituents, we hope, what are the issues that are concerning people?
I think in a lot of ways, there are several things that concern people. First of all is healthcare. I think that healthcare costs are eating up a greater and greater percentage of every person's budget. And the hard part about healthcare is it's after tax, so it's based on your take-home pay. I've heard of people that have $2,500, $5,000 deductibles, trying to make a decent wage. I think that's a big challenge.
Right.
I think people are really concerned about growth, and I'm a big advocate for smart growth, where you basically balance the needs of the community, the landowners, and the residents, and try to come up with something that makes sense. Other things as seniors, seniors have a fixed budget, but yet they're asked more and more to absorb a greater percentage of the costs. Quality education, and we need to prepare our children to be successful in life,
right.
Not just in school, but in life.
Right.
And fiscal, I'm a big proponent of fiscal accountability, not responsibility where you're cutting things, but the thing that bothers me is a lot of times you go out and when cuts need to be made, they cut the services and the safety net. And I'm a firm believer there are always ways to make things more efficient. And if you take that middle layer and make it more efficient, you can still deliver the services and then still save money.
Balancing. It's a balancing act.
Exactly.
And you're an accountant, so you're looking at the bottom line a little differently.
I'm a CPA, so yeah, exactly.
Right. Let's take our midpoint break here, and we'll talk a little bit more with you, Dave, about your concerns for the communities and what you're going to do to try to make things better, if we can get you in office.
Great.
All right,
Great. So
come back with us in a couple of minutes. We'll be right back with more Where's Wilmington and Dave Fionda.
Oh, we're done?
Nope.
The odds of this daughter of a clergyman spending 11 weeks at #1 on the U.S. singles charts? 1 in 19 million. The odds of going on to win 6 Grammy Awards? 1 in 1.4 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 110. I'm Toni Braxton, and I encourage you to learn the signs of autism at autismspeaks.org.
Hello, welcome back to Where's Wilmington. I am talking with Dave Fionda, and he is involved in running for what would you call it, running? I guess you would. A write-in campaign for the 21st Middlesex District State Representative seat that's available. And we're talking a little bit about his beliefs and some of the, the moral issues or the things that you learned growing up that taught you to be who you are and how you're going to put that into practice in government.
I think that Beacon Hill is a very challenging place. but I've always believed that you have a moral compass by which you make all your decisions, and that's not going to change. I mean, there's certain things that I believe in, there's certain values that my parents and my grandparents taught me that I'm not going to change.
You know, I hope that is the case for you, because I do see that, and my dad used to say this all the time, you know, people get in office with really good intentions, and then the political machine comes along and kind of eats them up, and they make compromises to get things done, and I know that has to be done, but how are you going to guard against that, Dave?
Well, I have a very similar experience in Rotary. Most of my colleagues that were district governors, you know, we're very happy with just being a district governor and doing good in the community and doing things I need to do. But there were, you know, of my region, maybe 5 or 6 of them that aspired for that next level, to be a director. And I made a decision very early. I said, look, I just want to help people. And that's our campaign theme is putting people first.
Right.
You know, it's time for Beacon Hill to put people first. And that's really what I want to focus myself. I'm not going to make a career out of this, but I want to put people first, and if I can help people and make a difference in somebody's, you know, I'm old school in that way. And I believe that, you know, somebody, a constituent or a voter has a problem, and it's your job as their representative to solve the problem, if you can.
How do you feel your colleagues will take to your approach? You know, because I'm sure they have all said what you're saying, and I'm not saying you're not going to do it. I'm sure they all said what you're saying before they got in, and then we see things happen. So do you think they're going to say, oh, sure, but when you get in there, you'll see how it really is? I mean, is there a sense maybe from them that you're being a little naive about what's really going on at Beacon Hill?
Well, I think that, you know, before I actually jumped in with both feet, I made phone calls to several representatives, and I asked that specific question. You know, will I have the ability to make a difference in the lives of my voters without getting caught up? And several of them said yes.
Really?
You can do that. Yeah, you can do that.
Well, that's encouraging to know.
There's one representative I talked to. He has a son who has Down syndrome. He's a huge advocate for people with disabilities, and he's been able to have a real impact in that area. So, you know, you can do those kinds of things for the right reasons if you want to. You know, and you know, these are the things I want to work on. Now, which I said before the break, and I truly believe in every one of those things. So if you can have a small, I'm a big believer in the Margaret Mead quote, you know, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed people can make a difference in the world. In fact, it's the only thing that ever has. And I always look at small gains. You know, can you make small gains? Do you have to make big splashes? And I think that, you know, the perception of Beacon Hill is one thing, but I think that there's a lot of representatives and senators that are around there doing the kind of work they want to do and making a difference that a lot of people don't hear about. You know, it's like the news, right? Do you ever hear good news?
Right.
You always hear the bad news.
Right.
You know, so, you know, I don't think, I mean, I was, you know, I mean, will things be different when I get there? I think so. You know, I mean, I'm going to go there and I'm going to sit down. I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to listen, I'm going to learn, but, you know, will my perception change? Yeah, but I feel very confident that I'm going to be able to do the kinds of things I want to do with helping people in that role.
So why now? You know, you say you have bought and sold 3 separate businesses that were successful, and you've moved on with your life, and your daughter is now in college, right, or ready to enter college.
Yep.
But why now? This is the time in your life when you should really be able to relax.
You know, relaxation is not really in my...
You think it's overrated?
I think it's really overrated.
Okay.
You know, but honestly, Lisa, I think that, you know, I mean, for me, I always have to have something going on. You know, when I was a district governor, that's a full-time job.
Right.
I was raising a daughter and I was working at the same time. And everyone said, how do you do it? Well, you know, I get energized by doing these kinds of things. I'm not the kind of person that's going to sit home. I'm not the person that I don't think will ever retire or take things slowly. I like being with people, I like talking with people, I like hearing their issues, and I like trying to help them solve their issues.
Right. Do you think it's possible that maybe you wouldn't have been ready in your life had you tried to do this maybe 10 or 15 years ago?
Oh, definitely not. I mean, I was very, very focused on raising my daughter. You know, 10 years ago, she was 9. You know, I was very focused on that. I mean, it all kind of lined up the same way. I would never have thought that Charlie would retire.
Right.
And I was shocked when I found out. So the opportunity presented itself. And like I said, I sat down, talked to my family, and I made a bunch of phone calls to people I respect, including several state reps that I know personally, and I asked them, what do you think? And the feedback was all overwhelmingly positive.
Excellent. What about the financial aspect of trying to put on a campaign like this? It's got to be a little bit daunting.
Well, it is, but once again, I've started businesses, I've raised money in businesses, so it's the same type of thing. And again, I want to bring this experience to state government is that, I've always been really good at getting a lot out of not a lot of money, right? So, certainly the things that you need to do in a campaign, especially with this campaign where you've got to really communicate a lot. You got to make the voters aware. So you've got to do mailings, you got to do visibility, you got to print up signs.
You got to come to little cable access stations and
that's
do
fine.
these shows.
This is great because it's my time.
Right.
But there are things you have to pay for. But so far in our campaign, we've been able to be innovative and to do a lot of things for not a ton of money.
Excellent. What do you think about the concept of redistricting? I know they're talking about that a little bit. You're going to be handling 3 communities.
Right.
Do you think that it should stay that way? Do you like that setup? Do you think it's too much for one person?
Well, I'm committed, and I'll say it right now, I'm committed to having regular office hours in each one of the communities.
Really?
I think that's really important. Yeah. I mean, I think once a month I'm committed to, or whatever it takes. Someone said to me the other day, you should have office hours at night. That's a great idea. To me, it comes down to what makes sense.
Right.
Doesn't make sense, and it makes sense. I'm committed to having regular office hours, the library, or however in the community room of the library, or wherever's most convenient. I don't know what, Burlington, Bedford, and Wilmington. I said I grew up in North Woburn. 5 minutes on the Wilmington line. I live in Burlington now, 5 minutes on the Wilmington line. Bedford is 10 minutes away, so it's not like a huge district. But I do understand the difficulty in Wilmington, where you've got I think 3 state representatives that represent
Right.
Wilmington. I mean, redistricting is kind of way above, that's for the leadership to deal with, and whatever the leadership says, how it ends up is the way it's going to end up.
But you don't feel like that's too much work for you to handle? You feel okay with that?
Definitely not.
Well, it seems like nothing flusters you. Is there anything you're worried about coming up? I guess just that no one will know that you're running, for one. But are there any challenges that you feel like you're facing that are kind of worrying you a little bit? Nothing seems to rattle your cage.
Well, like I said, when you raise a daughter, you learn.
That's true. By yourself, yeah.
You learn the value of
that's
patience.
true.
You learn the value of patience. You learn the value of just looking at the bigger picture going on. I think, again, my father and my grandfather taught me you can accomplish anything with hard work.
That's true.
No matter what you do, you can accomplish anything. So,
right.
I mean, I think what does, I mean, if there's a concern, it's been that the field is never really set because, it's not the traditional file, you papers, but, we've had probably, 4 candidates that I know declare and then get out. And I'm just doing my thing. We're doing our thing. We have a great campaign staff. We have a great finance committee that's raising money from regular folks. We're doing all the right things in terms of voter outreach and getting out and talking to voters and and having conversations with voters.
Right.
So we're running a traditional campaign and
What I liked is that you didn't bring an entourage with you. You're doing a lot of the work yourself.
Right.
And I respected that you're making the phone calls. You're the one who's out there doing it rather than having 5 or 6 minions. I really like that personal approach.
Yeah.
If the worst should happen and by some strange chance you don't win, would you consider running again? Will you do it again if you don't make it this time?
If I don't win the popular vote, I firmly believe that, and again, to be determined, that the town committees, when they caucus, will look at my candidacy and see I'm a guy that's ready to go September 7th. I mean, we have a Republican challenger in an election. There's going to be a huge turn on the election because the Elizabeth Warren, Scott Brown race and the Obama Mitt Romney race.
Right.
It really depends upon what the Republicans are going to do. The Republicans may look and say, geez, here's a guy who's never run for political office before. Let's pump a bunch of money at the Republican candidate. So you're going to need somebody that's been battle tested like we have. He's got an organization in place, has got visibility, has already brought out, 25, 20, whatever number of voters we end up bringing. I don't know what the exact number ends up being. So I would think that the Democratic town committees would look at that and say, okay, here's a person, has got organization, he's got visibility, and he's been in front of the voters. this is the person we should choose.
So you've got all your ducks in a row. It's just a matter of time before you get in there.
But
Really?
You never know.
That's true.
You never,
That's
Lisa,
true.
I like I said, I don't assume anything.
Mm-hmm.
I've never assumed anything. You know, I'm, you know, it's like the Bill Belichick rule, right? Always focus on the next game, but always run like you're behind.
That's true.
No matter what.
So you have an open forum here. What do you really want the folks to know? We have about a minute or so to
Okay.
go, so this is your chance to tell them what you really feel is the most important thing about you or about the campaign itself. So
Well,
go
thanks.
for it.
I just think, again, thank you, Lisa, for
Sure.
letting me come on. I just think that what's really important is that everyone exercises their democratic right to get out and vote. I know that the part of Wilmington that is in my district, or the district that I'm running for, is one precinct. But I think it's really important that you get out and exercise your right to vote. But more importantly, because what we don't want to have happen, we don't want to have this come to a caucus, because anything can happen at that point in time. They don't have to choose me. So, you know, exercise your right to vote. If you need any more information, we have a campaign website, writeinDave.com. Pretty simple, writeinDave, WRITEINDAV.com. Go to the website. We've got voter information on there. If you choose to support me as a Democrat or an independent, we have stickers. We're not having people physically running the ballots. We'll send you a sticker you can put in the ballot to make it easier.
I like that.
We've got some events coming up in the near future. I know we've got our campaign kickoff on August 9th at the American Legion in Burlington. We're doing a fundraising event in Boston at Les Eagle March. I'm actually a professional jazz drummer.
Oh, neat.
So I'm going to be playing, you know, we're going to have a trio there and do a little wine tasting.
We had a saxophone playing president, you know.
Yeah, I know.
Now, are you going to go do that next?
No.
Are you sure?
One step
I'd like
at a
to
time.
get the scoop.
One step at a time. And, you know, so, and again, we're, September 6th is the primary. You know, please get out and exercise your constitutional right to vote. We want the voters to decide this election,
Right.
so please do that. Thanks very much. And I hope that you can consider supporting me. And most importantly, you know, thank you very much for the opportunity to come out here today and to be on TV. And, you know, my promise to you is that I will be here in Wilmington. I'll listen to your concerns. I'll be accessible. And most importantly, I'll do what I can to help you.
And that's all we can really ask for. If we want to get more involved, we just go to writeinDave.com.
WriteinDave.com. If you want to volunteer, hold a sign, whatever, you just click on the Get Involved link and you can sign up and we'll be in touch.
Well, I wish you the best of luck, Dave.
Thanks, Lisa.
I hope everything goes the way you want it to. It seems
you.
like you've got everything planned.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, so much for watching Where's Wilmington today. I'm Lisa Capalla, reminding you that the next time somebody asks you, where's Wilmington, you tell them right here and right here on WCTV. We'll see you next time.